Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it's with great anticipation and high honor that I introduce David Foutz, who is the Vice President of Enterprise Clients at Cox Automotive, for our keynote speaker. David, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, what a pleasure to be with you, and congratulations on such a success that this roundtable has become. Just really exciting.
You know, I think like many things, we were in the right place at the right time and with the right message. And fixed operations has certainly become the growth area for dealerships, and it's been of high focus this past 12 months.
Yeah, there's no question. We know that gross profits are up for new vehicles, and that's very exciting. But volume's a challenge. And, in the recent NADA study in January, it's still gross profit, over half of gross profits for dealerships coming from fixed ops.
Well, we're excited to hear your take on it, as well as Cox Automotive. And, you're leading the way in the industry in terms of the things that you're doing with your different various platforms and just exciting stuff that's happening right now. So, Dave, I'm gonna go ahead and let you take it away.
Thank you, Ted, and good morning and welcome, everyone. What Ted has created here is so wonderful, to have the opportunity for leaders in our industry to get together and to learn from each other. From my experience, often in these events, the most valuable pieces of insight come to me as I'm listening to other people speak, when I'm reminded of some ideas of things that perhaps I've known but stopped applying, or I'm given a new idea, or even sometimes just a new connection between two old ideas. Obviously, the value of these events is partially in learning, but is realized as we apply that learning. And so I invite you, as you go throughout these days and listen to all the wonderful content coming your way in this roundtable, to take notes, and in particular, to take a moment to plan how you will apply some of those aha moments and insights that you gain. I want to chat with you today to open things up about three things: some observations about leadership, some observations from a study that Cox recently did in Q1, comparing thriving dealerships to the rest of the dealerships in our market, and then some observations on trends that I think are important as we look to the future. First, some comments about leadership. I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, and in high school had the opportunity to join an outrigger canoe paddling team. And it was a wonderful experience, and I think it's a good metaphor for some leadership lessons. This is a picture of the team that most recently won the Kaiwi Challenge race. The Kaiwi Channel is between Molokai and Oahu and is one of the most treacherous 41 miles. It's 26 miles between the islands, but this race is a 41-mile race between harbors on Molokai to Oahu. And this team and this event, these 6 men paddled the whole thing. And they did it in a little less than 5 hours through some of the roughest seas known to man. Canoe paddling is like any paddling sport. There's a certain portion of it that is about efficiency in translating your effort of your body into forward thrust for the boat. And when you do a stroke properly, you don't bounce the boat, but you translate your energy to that forward momentum. And of course, in a team sport, you add the element of synchronicity and unity that is so vital. And I quickly learned on a canoe paddling team that a team that was unified and stroking together most often would beat a collection of very strong individual paddlers that weren't as synchronized. Another thing that makes outrigger canoe paddling especially interesting is, of course, the open ocean, which introduces a whole bunch of variables to the typical rowing events in canals or rivers that perhaps you're more accustomed to. This is a race that happens on Oahu that I participated in. It starts at Kailua Beach, and ends at one of the Moccalini Islands, or the Mokes as we call them. And as you can see from the diagram, it's not as simple as the shortest distance from A to B is a straight line, which is of course common sense. There's other elements at play in this race. You've got waves, you've got reef, and you've got a rip current, and of course wind. And in this particular race, these elements ended up affecting outcomes more than distance. So the losingest team decided to take a risk, and they followed this path. They charged the breakers, got outside of the reef, thinking that way that they would cruise their way to victory. But the risk was too much. They took on water. Those waves turned out to be bigger than they thought, and the wind out here was ferocious. They lost. The team that I was on ended up coming in second place, first place losers. And, took a more obvious path, stay inside the reef and try to cut the corner here, shortening the distance to the goal. But this team failed to take into account how strong this riptide was. And as the race got about to this point, the wind picked up and that forward resistance became even stronger. The winning team stayed inside as close to the shore as possible and went past the objective. If you're paddling and your helmsperson is pointing the boat away from your objective, it takes some trust to keep paddling hard. I can only imagine how those choices could have been questioned. But of course, this team knew that their helmsman was experienced and had a plan. And he led them to victory, even though that path was longer, because they avoided the current. And at this point, the wind actually helped them a little bit, speeding them to victory. Leadership lessons that apply to us include two that I'd like to highlight. One, great leaders anticipate. They anticipate the trends or forces that will matter most in the near to midterm, and help prepare their teams or their businesses to use those forces to their relative advantage. And secondly, great teams are created by great leaders who drive unity, who drive a focus on excellent performance and incremental continuous improvement. And those kinds of leaders, to really drive unity in a team, have to lead by example. They have to live what they talk about. This is still true today. So we're in great times, as Ted mentioned. Times have actually never been better. I was recently talking to my friend Tully Williams at the Nilo Automotive Group, and he shared that March was their best ever month for fixed ops. Not best year over year as a percentage growth, best ever. And April beat March and became then their best ever month. And May was their third best ever month. Perhaps you're experiencing performance like that right now. We know that consumer sentiment is improving as well. Fewer owners say that they'll delay service as we move into summer. And 10% of consumers across the board receiving stimulus checks say they're planning to use it to get some repairs done. Business is good and summer should be great, but there are still huge opportunities to improve. Just imagine if everyone who bought a new or used vehicle from your dealership was 100% loyal for service, how much your business would grow. Collectively, that's something like $266 billion every year in lost revenue. And we know, again, from consumers that dealerships who want to boost profits and build loyalty will have to enable customer services to pay bills online, to schedule appointments easily on mobile devices, to pick up service vehicles, providing SPUD, service pickup and delivery. And consumers say that they are willing to travel farther and even pay more for better customer experiences. challenging some of the traditional notions that we've had about our restrictions based on location. We recently did a study at Cox in Q1 of this year and identified dealerships that have both grown profits and improved efficiency. And then we compared that group of dealerships to all the other dealerships who either grew profit but not efficiency, or declined in both, etc. And we learned some interesting things. So when I use the term thriver, it means dealerships that are growing both in profitability and efficiency. And 59% of those dealers, a majority, are dedicating focus to fixed ops. We know, as I mentioned earlier from NADA, that even with record high vehicle prices and vehicle grosses, fixed ops is still driving over half of the gross profit for the average dealership. And when we surveyed dealers about where they think their best opportunities for growth are on a scale from 1 to 100, fixed ops came in at 72. And one of the leading opportunities as rated by the average dealership. When we compare thriving dealerships, they're more focused on fixed ops opportunities than non-thriving dealerships. And when we compare their practices and their operations, we found three things that really set them apart from other dealers. They're using pictures and video. They are delivering the option for pickup and delivery services, and they've invested in technology to maximize technician productivity and to aid their advisor productivity as well. First of all, text and pictures. Texting with pictures and videos, or emailing. We've talked about it before. This service director, I think, said it well. Getting video and pictures rolling as soon as humanly possible is his advice to all of us. Customers love it. It's transparent. It changes the interaction from selling more service to informing that client of their options and letting them make great decisions about maintaining their vehicle. And in a recent refresh of our own data at X-Time in December, we studied our own customer base, over 7,000 dealerships using our tools, and again validated closing rates of additional service recommendations are averaging 25% without pictures or video. When you add pictures, it bumps to 31%, and when you add video, over half of the time, on average, over half of the time, when additional service recommendations presented, something's purchased. Pickup and delivery, again, not a new topic, but thriving dealerships today recognized this trend in the past and figured out how to deliver it and are still delivering it today. 51% of vehicle owners that availed themselves of pickup and delivery services ended up purchasing an additional service during that appointment. And that on average is delivering an additional $275 per repair order when comparing those that are picked up from service and delivery versus those that don't avail themselves of that service. And finally, thriving dealers are focused on improving shop productivity. They're using data to maximize the utilization of their service department. Whether it's, and these came in various flavors. Some thriving dealers have focused on building specialized teams so that they can better match capabilities and skill levels with appointments. Others have empowered their technicians with tools to help them communicate without leaving the bay, but also to do things like automatic voice capture for their notes so that technicians don't have to type. Also, thriving dealerships have invested in their advisors. And we all know about that critical decision point when the vehicle is on the lift, when additional service recommendations have been sent to a customer and we're waiting for a decision. How long before we take it off the lift and put another vehicle on? How long before we just complete the initial repair and forget about waiting for the ASRs? Putting texting tools and notification tools, workflow tools into your advisor's hands is helping them be more efficient and more often delivering value in those critical moments. And again, 78% of our consumers say receiving a text message is the best way to reach them for a service decision. So that's what thriving dealerships have done in the past, recognizing those trends more successfully than dealers not thriving and implementing processes for unified execution in their service departments. What's next? As we sit here today, what are the things that you should be concerned about? What are those forces most likely to affect your business's future success? I'd suggest that these should be considered. First, consumers are going to continue to expect increased transparency. It's not only a trend, it's an expectation. At Cox, we have created a tool to help with this. It's on Kelley Blue Book. It's service repair price ranges. And between January and May, 9 million consumers visiting Kelley Blue Book took the time to go in and look up a repair and see how much it should cost them in their market for their vehicle from franchised dealers providing service. We know that buying recommended services requires trust, so think about how you can further move the needle on transparent pricing, on providing a competitive reference to help make it easy for your customers to have confidence in what you're offering. And remember that making a purchasing decision requires not only trust in you as the provider, but it requires self-confidence as the buyer that I'm going to make a good decision, something that I'm not going to regret. So consumers are going to continue to look for comparison pricing information. Think about how you can help provide it to them to advantage your business. Second, it's interesting. We thought that all of the digital tools would reduce phone calls to dealerships. What we see happening in reality is communication is increasing. There's more communication between us and our consumers, but the phone call is flat to slightly increasing as a raw number, not as a percentage of the communication, but as a total volume. And so the rise of digital voice assistants is a great trend and something coming fast. We know that 80% of the time there's still at least one phone call with an appointment. We know that it's expensive to pick up the phone for your dealership. Average estimates around $48,000 per dealer per year to handle your service calls. We know that about 20% of calls go unanswered. And if you're not measuring how many of your calls go unanswered, you should, because it's costing you potential revenue. So how do you address that? The ideal solution is you could reduce your human cost. You could provide a better service. You could handle 100% of incoming calls and get more efficient at translating those calls into service appointments using machine learning and a contextually rich digital voice assistance. You've all experienced this. I do when I call Amex to pay my monthly bill, which I still like to do on the phone, but I love talking. The digital voice assistant works, and I'm very efficient at getting my bill paid by calling in. You can apply those same tools to your business, and that trend is coming. Third, connected cars are here. We know how powerful the shift was from a cell phone to a smartphone. And we know that that same shift is underway with cars and trucks becoming smart cars. This year, 18% of new vehicles are going to rely on tethered connectivity to communicate with the onboard systems of the vehicle. And 82% will not rely on tethered connectivity to communicate. Jim Farley recently, the data on the vehicle is invaluable. It unlocks a different way to create value for our customers. John Ferraro, president of Avis, our connected fleet is paying dividends by alerting us to potential issues, predictive issues in real time. to minimize out of service. Connected cars have been around for a while. They're growing, but to date, the use cases of how we're enabling this technology to help us are fairly limited. On one hand, for the consumer, you have things like being able to unlock your car from your phone or turn on your car from your phone, essentially replacing a key with a mobile device. And that's nice, but it's not that much better than a key fob. There is a lot of opportunity there. And on the other hand, when we think about enabling businesses, typically what has happened so far is batch processes that are grabbing data and analyzing trends across multiple vehicles that still require an expert to interpret and figure out how to use that data or what is actionable. As we move forward, this trend is going to accelerate, and we have to use it to unlock new experiences. Think about this. When a vehicle owner's dashboard light goes on, do they ever question if the vehicle is lying to them? Do they ever question how much they can trust the indicator that something's wrong? They don't. They trust their vehicle. We can use connected onboard systems to better educate and inform consumers in ways that they will trust and that will better influence their purchases of the right maintenance for their vehicle. And we can increase the convenience and efficiency of scheduling those appointments, of scheduling pickup and delivery services, of helping fleet managers manage their fleets efficiently. All of these values are coming, and I encourage you to think about the right ways and the best ways that connected cars can enable your business. Electrification, another huge trend, of course, and when it comes to EV, it is all about the battery, and the battery is a lot of things. It's repairing the battery, it's remanufacturing opportunities, it's the recycling, the replace, repurpose, recycle. And at Cox, we predict, and I think it's becoming increasingly clear, that the health of a battery for an electric vehicle, for a used electric vehicle, is more of an indication of value for that vehicle than the odometer. Think about that. A vehicle that's been driven 25, 30,000 more miles being worth less than a vehicle that had the proper maintenance and behaviors that drove high battery health. And battery health is something that an owner can control by the way that they behave and by their maintenance practices, which you can enable. Huge opportunities with batteries for service. One other observation related to batteries, but also then with fleets. We know that as we look forward, that the number of vehicles owned by fleets is going to increase. On the left, you see a chart of the total car park, the total vehicles in operation for the United States, forecasted over time. And at the bottom, you see that growth of fleet, which is an absolute number, is maybe not that big, but as a relative number is going to double by 2030. And on the right is our predictions about how many vehicles will be in the car park, whether it's battery electric vehicles or hybrid electric vehicles, and whether they're owned by fleets or by consumers. Of course, you can see that the raw number of those vehicles growing, even though it's still 10% of the total car park, a little more than 10% as we get out to 2030, the percent of new vehicle sales is going to equally grow from something like 8% this year to 23% of all new vehicle sales in 2030. So think about these trends. How will the growth in electric vehicles affect your business? How can you use that trend to advantage your business? And how can you think about fleet as an opportunity to grow your maintenance business? In conclusion, I would just like to offer an idea that it's my belief, it's the connections between us that are the most valuable thing. Whether it's in the context of being part of a paddling team on an outrigger canoe in the middle of the ocean, and that unity and trust you feel. I'll share with you, there are moments when you're paddling in a boat, if you're doing it right, that unity happens and you can feel the boat lift up out of the water. It almost feels like you're flying. When it's not working right, you feel like you're fighting every wave and every inch of that water in front of you. There's a Hawaiian word called laulima, which literally means, 5 fingers, 1 fist. But it's an idea that leadership is most valuable when it unifies a tribe or a team. That the Hawaiian ali'i would get out and help fish. They'd help plant taro. The ali'i being the royal class or the chief. And so laulima is a word that I offer to you as something to think about. And think about it in a broader context. The connections between the vehicle and those onboard systems and your business. The connections between your consumers, the thousands of people near you who need service today, and your team members. It's the connections between us that truly create value over time. Have a wonderful roundtable. I'm sure you'll learn so many things as the session continues, and hope that some of these thoughts have prompted you to have some new ideas for your business today. Thanks, Ted.
Dave Foutz, what a great way to kick off our Fixed Ops Roundtable today. And what a great and unifying message with insights into the present and into the future as well. I think we're going to hear a whole lot today about transparency. I think we're going to hear a lot about trust, and your message on leadership there just really helps set the pace for today. So, David, thank you so much on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable family.
Thank you, Ted.
David Foutz from Cox Automotive here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.